Okay, we'll start the webinar now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Brennan IT's Microsoft Teams webinar series. This is our final webinar, webinar 4, Brennan IT Teams Calling. So we're just going to run through some quick housekeeping at the moment. So the presentation is being recorded, so this will be sent to everyone once the webinar concludes. We do have closed captioning available. The instructions are on the screen if you do require this, and any questions will be answered throughout the webinar with the Q&A on the side. You can also request this anonymously if you don't want to put your name in. So next, we're just going to run through the agenda very quickly. So we're going to be going through Brennan IT Teams Calling and what it is, how we utilize Teams Calling for your business, and some of the frequently asked questions that we also get, and obviously we'll be answering any of your questions at the end if we have time. I'd like to now introduce you to Darren Simmons. He's our head of Brennan Voice and Data, and he'll be taking you through Teams Calling today.
Thanks, Rebecca. So the Microsoft Teams Calling platform. What is Microsoft Teams Calling? So Brennan IT is allowing people to make and receive calls to landlines and mobiles from within the Teams platform, regardless of your location and where you are, as well as not requiring any additional connectivity, so no VPN or additional requirements in those regards to connect, and likewise to make and receive calls. And the solution offers you the standard features of a telephony system, essentially cloud-based, so that your day-to-day requirements for all telephony are handled within one unique platform. That allows also for users to make and receive calls, park, hold, transfer, and all the standard features of a telephony system. The Teams calling platform, it integrates with multiple devices. We also have multiple call plans available to facilitate both inbound and outbound calls, as well as handle multiple calls and multiple inbound and outbound routes on multiple devices. So that also expands to mobile devices, desktop phones, as well as obviously your endpoint, so computer. Now, all of those devices will integrate with each other with the Microsoft Outlook platform, as well as Active Directory for contact information. Also, you can move calls around all of the devices. So for an example, you can commence a call on a desktop device, and if need be, if you needed to go mobile, you can essentially move that call or meeting onto a mobile device and continue with the call. There's mobile versions of the Teams application, which runs on both iOS, so for iPhone, iPad, as well as Android devices and Windows phones. The Team app essentially just acts like a mobile, conventional mobile phone app, and integrates with all the contacts if you are using it on your mobile that are stored on your mobile devices at the same time. And the Yo-Link device, which is one of the supported endpoints that we're recommending, that runs on the Android platform. So essentially, those devices will power up, you log into that device, and your account will then move between all the devices. So call history, contacts, and all of the relevant information for the Teams platform. How it actually works is, what we're doing is we've provided, they're called session border controllers, and that infrastructure allows for the bringing in of landlines into the Microsoft Teams platform, which then allows for telephony systems, essentially all those standard call functions, domestic calls, international calls, local calls, as well as moving calls around with the whole park transfer features that are available, allowing you to use a single business number so that essentially if your business has existing telephony numbers, those numbers can be then brought into the Microsoft Teams platform. So we don't require you to have additional numbers or new numbers in those regards. And the call flow of those of the telephony product is very similar to a conventional phone system, whereby you can have it come into an IVR, so a integrated voice response menu, which is essentially like your press 1, press 2 menu, as well as then giving you additional features such as voicemail and other standard telephony features. Also, because it is leveraging the Microsoft Teams platform, you can also engage things like meetings, chats, video calls, instant messaging, and other standard features of the Teams platform, all while being able to have calls coming both in and out of the platform to, as I said, local, national, and mobile. Some of the unique features of the system is, which Brennan IT are able to provide, is we're able to provide things like location-based reporting and dashboards, which lets you see all the calls in near real time across all of the locations. We also offer an availability SLA, which means if any of your locations have a 5% call quality issue for more than 24 hours, our team will proactively fix the issues before your users report it. What that essentially means is for voice calls coming both in and out of the system, that call quality, so if anybody has experienced poor call quality with a voice over IP system in the past, so things like underwater or googly calls, those metrics will be identified and then rectified. Our solution is also fully self-automated through the self-service portal, which means changes that you require to your system, they're completed in minutes and not days. So an example of that would be is if you needed to assign users a telephone number, those features and functions are available through the self-service portal. Because it is a managed service solution, that enables us to manage this end-to-end. So everything you need from user support to the device management, as well as setting up meeting and conference systems, as well as the endpoint system, so your desk phone or even assistance in configuring the mobile application. Benefits for the business. The Microsoft Teams platform, as you said, it supports multiple devices, and you can make and receive calls from any of those devices. You can call from anywhere, which essentially means if that device has internet access, you can connect and get online. So again, alleviating the requirement for having VPN or additional infrastructure. Real-time presence, so being able to see who's online, in meetings, offline, as well as their presence on the Microsoft Teams platform. That also integrates with the Microsoft Outlook platform. So if you're in a meeting, whether that be a Teams meeting or you've just got an engagement in your Outlook calendar, that presence is then shown in the Teams platform. The call quality monitoring, so that includes all the metrics behind the actual call quality itself, and that then enables us to provide a quality SLA against that. The call reporting quickly identifies issues with the call quality and user experience, as well as even just simple reporting in terms of inbound, outbound calls and volumes coming in and out of the platform. The employee self-service, with that, you're able to record voicemail messages, set your diversions and schedule out of office messages. There's also transcription services against the voicemail application, which essentially if somebody leaves you a voicemail, it'll convert it to text and then email that to you. Personalized voicemail as well. So when you are recording your voicemail, you can have obviously a personalized greeting, as well as different forwarding and transfer methods of that. So for an example, it might be a person can leave you a voicemail message and then either just leave the message and hang up, or leave the message and get diverted to an alternate location as well. Likewise, you can divert or send the call off to another device if need be, instead of leaving a voicemail, which would also be another option. There's also customizable inbound IVRs and queues. So configure up to 10 departments with a limited single auto attendant IVR. So again, for that example, if you had, say, a main 13 or 1800 number inbound, that would hit the IVR, and at that point, the user would then be able to select options, say press 1 for accounts, 2 for sales, those sort of options. And then you could configure groups or individual users in that menu system. So the Teams calling options we're able to provide, we've got a hosted and a managed solution. So all infrastructure from end to end is managed by Brennan IT. Very handy, especially if you're doing the full support option there. You've got the ability to engage the Brennan IT support for any of the requirements of Teams, whether that be from a voice aspect or a Teams aspect. So in other words, all the configuration items that are available. and whether you need assistance in setting up phones, desk phones, mobile devices, or even just configuring of the system. So how calls come in and out, and how the routing of those calls work. So whether that be business hours, after hours, and different voice recordings, we're also able to assist you in that area as well. We've got the self-managed infrastructure as well. So that's whereby we'll obviously set up the platform, pair it up to the Microsoft Teams platform, bring your numbers in and configure the initial configuration of the system. And then from that point forward, you do have the access both within a portal as well as the Microsoft Teams platform to then perform additional configuration. So again, moving numbers around, moving users around, and configuring those IVR options. We then have meeting room options. So that's for hardware for small huddle rooms, including conference rooms, things like that. That's where you can get supported hardware. So for webcams, additional conference room equipment that you're able to set up, and we can support those options end to end as well. Call plans. So in addition to the Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Office licensing, you do require a call plan. So those call plans, we're offering two versions of that. There's a standard call plan where all the calls are billed separately. So it's essentially just a base layer where the calls are coming, the numbers are coming into the Teams platform, and then all the outbound calls are then charged on top at the various rates. And then there's a premium call plan where all local, national and mobile are included in the monthly fee. The way in which we license this is on a named user or per user cost. So for example, if you have 10 users, you'll end up with 10 call plans. There's many reasons to change to the Microsoft Teams platform. Obviously, in the current climate, we've got users working remotely, so obviously very handy in that regard. You've got the options, the greater flexibility of obviously the NBN rollout. There's obviously the ISDN disconnection and copper disconnections that are being performed at the moment. So with that, once a user is onto an NBN or equivalent service, then there's really no additional requirement or connectivity requirements for the user to then start using the Teams platform. Application integration, great topic for the Teams platform and collaboration there. So we can, obviously you've got the calls coming in and out of the Teams platform, but then Teams just isn't just a phone system. It's also obviously a collaboration system which integrates with SharePoint, bots, applications and various other components of the Office 365 suite. So again, it's just that single pane of glass for the users. We've got obviously with the outdated phone systems and infrastructure. So again, if your current PBX requirements or telephone requirements are aging, you've got the on-prem systems. Typically the licensing, maintenance and uplifts of those to maintain them is quite expensive. And likewise, it's very limited for users to connect remotely. So in that regard, it is a great time to look at the Microsoft Teams platform and move from those on-prem systems. Rapid scalability. So essentially, if you start with a small 5 to 10 seat system, whereby you may only have limited users utilising the system today, to scale that up is very quick and easy. There's no additional infrastructure required. It's literally just licensing, and as those licenses or numbers and trunks increase, your capacity increases, and there's no need to invest in on-prem infrastructure or hardware licensing and those sort of components. So it does make it very easy to scale. Likewise, if you did need to scale down, that can be achieved as well. Obviously, just decommissioning licenses and retiring numbers, and then that system can also scale down as well. Consolidating to a single ICT provider. So essentially what that means is engaging services from Brennan IT, covering the whole breadth of services there. We've got obviously the managed services, cloud telephony, both cloud infrastructure, and obviously the networking side as well. In that, you've got the single point of contact with Brennan IT. So regardless of whether it's a specific Microsoft Teams issue, a calling issue, a call quality issue, any of those sort of components, as well as even just simplified support. It's just one number to call, and at that point we can facilitate all aspects of the support there. And finally, I suppose, with the investment that Microsoft is also making into the Teams platform, it is rapidly changing weekly at the moment, updates, new features. So Microsoft are investing heavily into this, and those features are, as I said, they're coming out regularly, and as well as the telephony options that are coming with it as well, different versions of the telephone system are also available. So there's additional features for the look and feel of it as well, which are making improvements every day. So some of those options, obviously, that have been recognised of late are the ability to move calls from device to device seamlessly without actually having to hang the call up and redial on another device. You can now move those calls freely around, and even enhancements to things like the hold, park and transfer. You've got additional options coming in with those as well. So to get more information, there's a brochure available on our website, and more information is obviously available both on our website, the Microsoft website, as well as obviously contacting account managers and Brennan IT. We're able to facilitate any other additional information you require.
Just going to leave it open for any more questions. If you guys have any, please send them through and we'll let them know. Darren, we've got one. Does this provide numbers for international locations such as US, UK, Belgium, Japan, China and UAE?
So numbers can be procured. At the moment, from Brennan's point, we're only supplying national numbers at this point, but in terms of bringing in international numbers, that is a feature of the Teams platform, and they can be procured at the Microsoft end. So we can facilitate additional numbers. It's just obviously looking at the regulatory requirements behind that as well. So for example, just looking at where the calls land. So for an example would be going into places like Dubai or China. There is government regulations on where those calls can enter and exit from, so we just have to be mindful of those compliances. But yes, international numbers are available for the Teams platform.
Great. We've got, can receptionists divert calls that come in on the main line?
Yes. So different call routing options would be available. So for an example, if you could either have calls going to multiple hunt groups or multiple queues, or external numbers as well. So if it needed to divert out to a mobile phone, for example, or an alternate location, those are options as well. However, like a common scenario from a reception might be, when they're say going on lunch or leaving the office for a period. Conventionally, with a phone system, you would have to divert that to your mobile phone. Obviously, with the Teams platform, if you have the Teams app on your phone, you won't need that diversion. You just literally walk out of the building with your app on your phone.
Great. So we've got, do you offer headsets with recharge cradles?
Yes, so there's Jabra headsets that are available, and additional hardware options as well. So we can send you some more information on some of the compatible devices we've got.
How does the overall TCO of this solution compare to current traditional business PABX phone system?
Okay, so with TCO, if you're looking at it from refreshing, say, an on-prem system, so an example would be an NEC system, you've got considerations of licensing hardware and infrastructure, as well as maintenance and support across the top of that. When we've done TCO offerings in the past with this, in terms of that return, they're looking at, obviously depending on the size of the system, but anywhere between 9 to the 11 month mark. And that also consists of factors of your current Office 365 licensing. So there are different versions of the licensing, either as an add-on or included. An example of that would be is if you're already paying for an Office 365 E5 platform, you already have the ability and licensing to engage Teams calling. It's just a call plan on top. So from that point, Again, because there's no additional infrastructure required, the investment is minimal. If you're on an Office 365 E3 platform, then you would require the phone system add-on. So to be the system add-on from Microsoft, and then the call plan on top.
Great. Microsoft also provides a cloud phone system integrated with Teams. How does Brennan's solution compare? Why would we use a session border control option versus a pure cloud approach?
Okay, well, the Microsoft Teams platform as a phone system in Australia at the moment is limited to the Telstra network, which is actually a session border controller infrastructure that sits behind it. And essentially the cloud telephony system, which is available on the Teams platform without vendor engagement. So in other words, doing it directly with Microsoft is currently not available within Australia. So if you were to procure this through the Microsoft portal, you'd actually be procuring it through Telstra. And again, with that, that is a session border controller system that lies in the back end of that. Essentially what Brennan have built is an equivalent system to how the Telstra offering works in that scenario. Obviously we can speak on how ours is much better, but essentially the infrastructure is very, very similar. So, but the main identifier there is the pure cloud telephony system available on the Microsoft platform. If you were to subscribe directly through Microsoft, you're actually pairing off and doing it through Telstra.
Okay. Will this work with our current Polycom phones? Can they be flashed to work? Is there a receptionist console?
So depending on the model of the Polycom phones, it would be possible for them to work. They need to be running an Android operating system. And again, depending on the model of those Polycoms, whether they can be upgraded to the latest version of Android, that would be determined on that model.
And do the Yearlink devices have touchscreens?
Yes. So there's a T58, I think the model is, and there is a larger model again with an inbuilt webcam, and that does have touchscreen on the panel. In terms of like a reception style console or flash operator panel, there isn't a feature like that at the moment. There is obviously the presence feature where you can set up all your shortcuts and everything on those touch panels to give you, I suppose, a look and feel of that flash operator panel or reception style console. But there are also obviously other hardware and software components you can engage with Microsoft Teams to broaden that, so you can have those panel views.
Great. Is the management of users, IVR, etc., possible via Teams management portal or via Brennan provided portal?
Both. So the primary function for moving or configuring IVR queues and those sort of components is handled within the Microsoft Teams portal, the admin portal, and we're also building that functionality into our self-service portal as well.
Do you have redundancy in your session border control infrastructure?
Yep, we do. So we've invested heavily in this area. So we have dual HA session border controllers running across 2 data center locations with enterprise trunking delivered to both, which essentially just means that in the event one of our core infrastructures has an issue, it's a active HA diversion or HA scenario to the secondary data center. So calls would be essentially flushed out from the primary data center if that was to fail, and then fail over to the secondary data center. So yes, we do.
That's all the questions I have at the moment. I might just wait a few more minutes though, in case anyone has any more.
Sure.
I will just say again, guys, we are sending out the recording of this along with the brochure and the frequently asked questions document that we've created as well, which has the link to all of the approved Teams hardware headsets and all of that, those kind of questions as well. Got some more questions? It sounds like you're comfortable with your offering versus Telstra. Do you compete on costs as well?
Well, I mean, from a competitive standpoint, they're all in the mix there. So yeah, we're fairly confident we can definitely compete with the Telstra offering in that regard. The core differences though are, in terms of support, it's all local support. Obviously with Brennan, we're not outsourcing any component of this. It's owned end to end, as well as the SLA and voice SLA that we're able to provide, especially if you're on net with a Brennan network. From that point, we're obviously able to run that guarantee across the calls. So in terms of a commercial outcome, again, different variations of the licensing would depend on your investment, but from a raw telephony perspective, yeah, we're very competitive against the other players in the market in this area.
Great. What is the minimum term for the service?
At the moment, the minimum term would be 12 months. Conventional terms are 12, 24 or 36 months, and with a minimum of 12.
Is it available with Microsoft 365 Business Premium license or E3, E5 only?
So with the Premium, you can get the add-on for phone system, and same thing with E3, the add-on. But if you're on the E5, it's already included, as well as you'll get the audio conferencing included with the E5 as well.
Is Brennan IT providing any live demos of the management console?
We can facilitate one if required, yeah. So
that's all the questions at the moment. We'll give it another few more minutes. Okay, great. I think we've had all the questions answered. So I'm just going to conclude the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. We hope it was an informative session for you. If you have any questions, we'll be sending out a post-webinar email. Like I mentioned, you can either reply to that or just reach out to your Brennan IT account manager.